Hey, Lynn Erickson here, purveyor of light with another Photoshop quick tip. Today we've got a real fun one. Today we're going to be working with textures and patterns. With textures and patterns you can have an awful lot of fun and be awfully creative with your photos. It's one of the most fun things I love to do with my photos, to take them from ordinary to extraordinary. You want your photos to stand out. You don't want it to look like a snapshot. You want to give it that extra touch. Textures and patterns help you do that. And there's no wrong or right. And you can have tons of combination and ideas, and they can become a part of your regular photography routine. You can use them, build up immense libraries, and then you'll be able to make all kinds of crazy combinations. So to start out, for those of you that don't know what exactly it is, I'm going to go ahead and show you an example of a couple textures and patterns. Here's a shot of some wood grain. Okay, this one here, I was walking around, I think in IKEA, and I saw this this desk with the wood grain there, and I pulled out my cell phone and took a quick snapshot of the wood grain, and then I've been adding it to my library here of textures. Here's another example. Here's some leaves and rocks, and on the ground, it makes an interesting texture and pattern. Okay, and another example here. Here's an example of a wall that that looked absolutely terrible in real life, but I found it very interesting for a texture and a pattern for that grunge look. So we turned it into a black and white, and I plan on using it as a texture. So that hopefully gives you an idea. So when you're walking around in your everyday life, you want to go out there and start looking at the patterns. And when you see interesting rocks or leaves or wood grains or anything that's interesting, that has a pattern, that has texture, rust. How many times have you seen rust or chipped paint? Things like this. These are all interesting textures that if you capture them, you can then use these and join them together in Photoshop with your pictures to make some really interesting creations. And you won't believe how easy it is to do so. A lot of people think, oh, it'll take forever to try to do all this blending and all the things, but actually Photoshop makes it incredibly easy for you. So let me go ahead and show you how easy exactly it is. So again, I've got this nice wood grain texture, and I'm going to go ahead and turn that off for a second and let you see the photograph down below. And here we've got a nice picture of a beautiful woman here in the woods, and it's a really nice photo. It's got a great composition here, but you know, it just looks a little flat, maybe a little underexposed. I don't know. It yells out to me for more interest. And I think a texture, okay, I think this texture will actually go together well with it. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to work with this picture and do any adjustments I want to before I start working with the texture. Now, for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to do the absolute minimum. I'm going to go ahead and add a curves adjustment layer for her. And I'm only interested in what's going to affect her and how it affects the picture. I'm not going to worry about the woods or anything behind it. So I'm going to bring up a standard S curve, I think, and bring that down. There we are, nice little gentle S curve, and that looks fine to me. So the before and the after, you can see I've increased the contrast on her, given a little more separation on her on the picture, and I'm perfectly happy with that. So now we have the texture, and I'm looking at the texture here, and I'm like, it's a little on the light side, so maybe I should darken this up first. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to Image, Adjust, and probably adjust the levels. And I'm just going to darken it up a little bit, just so it's not so. I like that. Okay, So now I have darkened up the wood grain, and so I feel that that's going to blend well with my image down below. Okay, so I'm looking for these colors here, and I'm looking, that looks more conducive to that photo. So now using this texture, how do we blend them together? Okay, you would think, oh, here comes the brushes and all this work and blending and that. In Photoshop, it's actually almost automated for you. Down here you have the blending options. You can set to normal right now, but you pull down and you can actually change the blending options and see what the effect has. So I could change it to darken, and you see how it blends. And I could change it to multiply. And I can come into lighten and screen. And you see, each one blends the image. The blends start to happen differently based on the different blending options. So I have overlay. Overlay is kind of interesting. Soft light, you know, I like that. I like that soft light. It really enriched the woods and that. And yeah, I think I'm going to go with soft light. Now, what is the correct answer? The correct answer is what I feel looks best to my image. And so when you're doing this for your images, you go through these blending options and you decide what works well for your art creation. For me, this time it's going to be soft light. All right, so now I have the soft light, and I want to turn around and put a layer mask here because it's affecting the whole image. And I don't want it to affect her because I went through the trouble of making a curves adjustment down here, and I had her adjusted and contrasted just the way I wanted. So I want to just kind of mask her out and uncover just her, but not the woods. So we do that by just simply coming up and selecting the paintbrush. Make sure we're painting with black, okay? And then we just come in with a soft brush. Make sure you have a nice soft brush, okay? And then just simply brush in, okay? And you don't have to be very accurate in here, okay? You're just blending it in nice and easy, okay? It actually will take just seconds to do this, okay? And don't feel all nervous, you know, if you make a mistake or you actually went over an area you shouldn't have. And I'm deliberately doing that right here. I'm coming over her, and you can see I'm going beyond where I should. All right, so no problem. I just hit the X button, and now I can come in and paint in white and correct those areas that I overdid just by coming in and just blending it back in. Okay, so now I've got a picture that just has more contrast, it has more interest, it's got a little bit of texture in it now from the wood grain, and it's got a nice mix. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. How much of impact did we do? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Before and after. Okay, you can see that there's a tremendous amount of difference between the photos. Okay, now we have a really interesting photo with much more depth, much more interest, and this photo stands out over anybody else's photo here because now we've taken it from a snapshot into a really nice image, and we did it with a simple wood grain texture. So that was easy. What do you say we do another one? Okay, so here I've got a little bit of leaves and texture. I also have another texture down below here with a wall that's gummed up. And of course, I've got a nice portrait here of a beautiful woman. And this is an absolutely gorgeous image. Really not much to do about this. And for the most part, it's a very nice image. But you know, I think we can actually step it up a little more. And I think textures and patterns is the way to go here. So let's go ahead and try it. What do we hurt experimenting? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the texture layer and turn on the wall here. And with this gritty look, I'm going to switch that to soft light. Happens to be one of my favorite. And I look at that, and again, I'm disregarding the texture on her and just looking at what it does to the picture. And I'm like, wow, does that not make things more interesting? Okay. And here's another layer I could turn on, and I can combine. I can actually combine images and textures. See, now I have a texture on a texture. Okay. Now in this case, I'm not going to do it, but I just wanted to show you that you can combine textures and images together. Okay, so for this one here, I do like what this one does. This one here, I do like the way it enhances the background, adds some texture and that. The only thing we need to do is, of course, we need to add a layer mask, and we need to remove by painting in black, okay, so that we can just soften the effect. Now, you can come in with a certain opacity, okay, very soft brush, and you can come in and paint, okay, and you could paint as little or as much as you want the effect to come in and blend. So you can make, you know, a beautiful piece of art. You can do it subtle like this where you have a combination, okay, and I did that by just reducing the opacity. Or if I want, I can turn around and blow out the entire effect and just bring her in how I want, okay, and I can bring her into the picture. And again, I'm doing this very quick and dirty. You would take a little more care on yours, but here we are, okay. Now, you don't think this makes a big effect? Look at the background and look at the portrait as a whole, before and after. Tell me that doesn't add depth and warmth and more interest to the photo. Okay, simply by changing the blend mode to soft light, putting on a mask that took 10 seconds to brush in softly, and now we have a really nice, interesting image. Okay, so you can come in and you can really see how much interest it takes. There's the before, and look at the background. Look at it. This is a beautiful portrait, but I think we took it to a new dimension by just simply adding a texture. All right, so hopefully you're getting the idea. Again, no wrong or right. It's about experimenting and building up a library. So I highly recommend everybody get their cameras out, carry them with you, and start collecting every texture and pattern you can find during the course of your day. You would be surprised. I pick up textures just from going to the gas station. The gas station may have a nice, interesting wall or a textured wall, and I'll take a couple shots of that, and I'll bring it home and add it to my library. You know, I've been having so much fun here. Let's do one more, in fact. All right, so last one here. Okay, wow, we've got some serious stuff here. This is a nice texture. Like I said, this was a terrible thing, a wall. It was just in terrible shape. I turned it black and white, and let's see what I can do with this to make an interesting photo. Okay, so here we are. Here's our photo. Another beautiful woman here. This is another beautiful shot, as a matter of fact. Really nothing wrong with it at all. But, you know, I think a texture could actually add to this photo. So let's go ahead and do it. So you guys know what I'm going to do. I'm going to select the layer, and I'm going to change the blend mode. And what happens to be one of my favorite? Soft light. And I'll turn it on and off. And I'm going, that's really adding some interest. Let me try another overlay. Ooh, do I like overlay? That's tough to call on this one. I'm going to go with the soft light. I'm partial to soft light. So now I'm going to come in and add a layer mask on this layer. And then I'm going to brush in black with a soft brush. And I'm just going to come over the areas and blend in the photos. Again, I'm doing this very quick and dirty. If you would do it, you would take your time. But just for demonstration purposes here, I'm just showing you how this all just blends together. And you'll notice that even though I'm doing this incredibly fast, it really doesn't matter. If I go a little over, I hit the X key to paint in the opposite color, and I can just blend the areas back in. Okay? So, I look at this and I go, the before and the after. The before and the after. It actually makes quite more of an interesting photo. Now, maybe you think the texture's a little too harsh or too strong. If you do, just simply change the opacity and you can soften the effect on the photo. Okay, so by dropping the opacity down, I'm dropping the effect of the texture, okay? As well as I can come onto the mask and I can change my flow and opacity so that I'm only painting a minimum amount, okay? Take a very soft brush, very large soft brush, and maybe just brush just a little bit to soften the areas that I want to for this. Or maybe I want to add to. And I can come in creatively touch the photograph. So again, the before and the after. If you ask me, here's an example where we took a great picture and we made it more interesting. We gave it more character. We made it more stand out. We made it ours. We took it from a snapshot into a great shot. So there's three good examples. We took an ordinary woodland scene and turned it into a more dynamic shot. We took a beautiful portrait and we turned it into a fantastic portrait. And we took an ordinary beautiful shot and we turned it into a much more dynamic shot. So that's all there is to it. So now, like I said, I want everybody to get out a camera, carry it with you, whether it's your cell phone or a point and shoot or your DSLR, it doesn't matter. These textures are found everywhere, okay? Just look for them, capture them, and then start playing with them with your photos. You'll be surprised on how much and how creative you can do and how many interesting photos you can do. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and if you did, please leave some comments down below. If you like these videos and you'd like to see more, be sure and hit the subscribe button on YouTube. And this way you'll get notifications every week when we have a new episode out. And until next week, it's Len Erickson saying you take care and happy shooting.